did you know that people don't do business with you based on your skills, your experience, or even your pricing? They do business with you based on trust. So if you can't build it quickly, you're going to struggle to attract clients and grow your business. Most people focus on selling their services, but guess what? Customers don't care about your services as much as they care about a sense of certainty. So in this episode of the Shift Podcast, we are going to show you how to quickly build trust so that you can grow your business. Matt, we're here at Uva Wine Bar, Colorado Springs, and we're going to talk about trust.
Yeah. Welcome to this episode of the Shift Podcast. Matt Ware, Evan Weiland, and this is something I think that we believe is just super important in terms of how we do business and really how we do life, right? Stephen Covey famously said that everything moves at the speed of trust. And I think that's a really profound statement. Everything moves at the speed of trust. And in your business, that's true both internally and externally. It's true externally with your customers, your clients, the marketplace that you're serving. And it's true internally with your teammates and your contractors and the vendors and all of those things that you're using. Everything moves at the speed of trust. So if the trust is low, you're going to move very slowly. Whereas if the trust is high, you can actually move very quickly in building your business. And I think the question that we've got to ask is, what is trust in the business sense, right? We know what trust is kind of in the personal sense. We have a good kind of feeling about that. But what does trust mean in the business context? And I would define it this way. I think that trust in a business context, in a business environment, is simply confidence in outcome. Trust is confidence in the outcome. It's a sense of assurance, a sense of certainty, like you mentioned a minute ago, and belief that you are going to get what you paid for, right? That's what trust is. It's that this product or this service is going to live up to the billing, that the money I'm exchanging is going to get me the result that I'm expecting.
Yeah, so we can look at this from a marketing and sales perspective. You know, if you're in business, chances are you have to do marketing and sales.
Right, whether you want to or not, right? This is part of being in business.
Yeah, and we talk about that in a separate episode,
right.
The things you must do in business, right?
Yes.
So marketing and sales, you guys may have heard of the argument of features versus benefits, right? And in marketing and sales, you have to pick one. I'll give an example of features versus benefits. So when the air conditioner was first released to the market for vehicles, right? A certain company had to hire a marketing agency to get it out there. And they had to make a decision. Are we going to market the features of this air conditioner or the benefits of the air conditioner? And there's an actual ad out there under Ogilvy's agency that you can see this ad. It's really cool. Example of features for air conditioning, right? It blows at whatever X degrees. We have vents in the front. We got vents in the back. You can use the air conditioner sitting still or while driving. Like, these are all features, right?
Right.
But a benefit of that is that you can roll up the windows in the summertime and not die.
Right.
Right. I mean, that was the thing, right? If you want to roll up the windows on the highway, you're just gonna get hot.
Right.
That was the option, right?
Yeah.
If you don't like the wind, then you better like the heat. And so they decided to go with the benefits, and it sold. Right. It worked. So this is an example of features and benefits, but here's the point. The benefits create trust, and we're going to get into this because it breaks down that wall, and speaks directly to their need, or what we're going to talk about is empathy.
Right. Well, and I think, what you're describing really is, it's the difference between appealing to a customer or a client based on emotion or logic. Right. And we all have both, right? Like, we're all on this, I don't want to call it even a spectrum. It's like we're balancing both, right? Like, everybody's got both emotion and logic. And what most of the research shows is that we're emotional creatures, and we make emotional decisions, and then we look for logic to back up that emotional decision.
That's a good point.
Right.
Yeah.
And so really what you're describing, and I think the air conditioner thing is a perfect example, right? Like, the features are very logical, but the benefits are very emotional.
Yeah.
Like it's appealing to a feeling, right? Mm-hmm. The feeling of comfort, the feeling of luxury, all those things. And so So what we're talking about when we talk about, this in the context of trust is very often a product of an emotional component of connecting with another human being more than a logical component.
Yep.
And that's why you can feel like a very trusting, close connection with somebody in a relatively short period of time if that emotional connection is there. Whereas, you might know somebody or be in business with somebody for a long time, and logically you should trust them, but you still don't have a good feeling about it, right? And so the logic and emotion are always, I think, battling it out. And I think what we're saying is trust is probably going to be built a lot more on an emotional level than it is on a logical level. And, when it comes to these things, and I'm probably not the poster child for this. I think I'm more of a logical buyer. In fact, when I start to feel emotion, that's when I push away from the table.
Nice. Yeah.
But I realize most people aren't like that. I'm a little bit of an anomaly in that way. But what I would say too, and again, these are nuances, right? Like these are, there's an art and science in all of this.
Yeah.
And I think when we deal with product, a lot of time there's a stronger logic bent.
Right.
But when we deal with service, there's a stronger emotional bent.
Interesting, right?
And so I think we've got to just know, based on the industry that we're in, based on how we connect with our customers or clients, we've got to know kind of how to lean into those things to build the trust that we want to have, to make sure that they feel like they're going to get the outcome they signed up for, right? Like that, again, that's what the trust in the business context is the confidence that I'm going to get what I paid for.
Yeah, we want to create trust, not skeptics in our business.
Right.
So when you're out there doing your marketing and sales, remember that people are going to be bent towards skepticism.
Always.
And the more you push your agenda, trying to sell them,
Right.
they're going to get further and further back on their heels.
Even if it's trying to help them.
That's right. It's exactly right. Yeah, and that's my point. Actually, Myron Golden, he's a consultant. He tells a story of a guy that's on the street. Imagine you're walking down the street, walking on the sidewalk with your coffee in the morning, and you see this guy out there handing out $20 bills, right? You're going to default to skepticism.
Oh, yeah.
There's no way this guy's just helping people out, right?
Yeah.
Where's the camera?
I was going to say, there's a catch. I'm not taking that 20.
He's a YouTuber or something, right? And so you're going to default to skepticism. Now, imagine you're watching this same guy handing out $20 bills and people going, and kind of avoiding this guy and going around, looking for the camera or checking out the 20, Imagine enters into the scene. A guy's walking across the street. He trips, hits his head on the curb, starts to bleed. And this is getting dark already. And the guy would have been skeptical, like everyone else, to take that $20 bill, right? But because he's bleeding, he will willingly accept the help of the guy that was handing out the cash. Sure. The guy runs over to him. He goes, "Oh my God, I saw you fall. It's bad. Can I call somebody?" The guy says, "Yeah, here's my phone." He's like, it's locked. What's the password? He gives him his passcode, 1234. He unlocks it. He calls 911. The moral of the story is he would have been skeptical by the guy just trying to hand him 20s and help him out.
Sure. Yep.
Right? But the moment that he's trying to solve pain, and the moment that the guy connected with him and showed him empathy, he completely opened up, right?
Yep.
The trust opened up, the barriers went down, and it was a completely different situation.
Yeah, and we're going to talk in this episode about a few ways that we can build trust, but this really is the most important one, the foundational one. Empathy builds trust.
That's right.
When you demonstrate empathy, people begin to trust you when they feel like you understand them. You understand their hopes and their dreams. You understand their fear. You understand their pain. All of a sudden, the walls start to come down and they feel connected to you. They feel like they can trust you. And, there's just this interesting observation about human behavior that we tend to sort of bond with people and connect with people and trust people, not by talking to them, but by listening to them.
That's right.
Which seems counterintuitive, especially in the sales and marketing context, but you'll actually gain more trust with people by listening to them than by talking to them. And I don't mean just listening until they get done with whatever they're going to say so you can move on to the next thing you want to say. I'm talking about like active listening, leaning in, really hearing not just the words, but the intent and the heart and the emotion. Even like reading between the lines, what's not being said, all those things matter so much to connecting and building empathy with them. And you'll build more empathy by listening to what they say than just by what you want to say.
Yeah. And let me add to that. This exercise of building trust through empathy, you're not doing it in a fake way just to get what you want.
It's not manipulative.
No, it's not manipulative. You're actually, the old saying goes, help people by actually helping people.
Right.
Like actually care about the problems they're experiencing in business, in their life, so that you can do business with them. Crazy concept, but you don't have to manipulate.
Right. Well, and I love, Chris Voss, the FBI negotiator. He talks about this. He calls it tactical empathy.
Nice.
And they deal with that, in FBI hostage situations. And he talks about that empathy, empathetic listening, empathetic interaction with human beings, it's not manipulative because you actually do care. Even the FBI dealing with a terrorist, they care because they're trying to make a connection so that they can reach a resolve, so they can solve a situation. And we're not doing anything different in business, really.
Yeah, that's right.
The stakes maybe are a little lower than hostage situations, but the point is we're trying to connect with another human being so that there can be a solution that really is good for everybody.
Yeah. So here's what you want to do. You want to be seen as this safe option to your customer or client, right? But here's where a few people get it wrong, right? Including myself. I've got it wrong.
Right.
People believe that they can build trust by yapping more.
Right.
By talking more, typically about themselves. And it's really natural, I think.
Sure.
It makes you feel credible when you talk about all of your accolades, all of your features, right? I'm, credible here and I'm credible there and I'm fast and I'm affordable.
This.
Yeah. This is where I went to school. Like that might make you feel good, but it actually builds skepticism with them.
Sure. Well, because they feel like they're being sold.
Exactly right. No, exactly right. Well, they know that you're making it about you.
Right.
That doesn't feel good to them.
Well, and it doesn't build trust.
Yeah. Yeah. So the opposite of trust building is making it about you. It's just making it about you. I think that's the opposite. So here's the tip. Understand your buyer psychology. Understand the buyer psychology. Understand what is the risk of them hiring you. And in sales, we call this handling objections. And if you're handling an objection well, you actually handle the objection before they bring it up.
Right.
That shows that you did the research, that you know what their objection is going to be, their concern, and you proactively deal with it before they even bring it up.
Yeah.
That lets them know that, wow, this guy actually does care. He really knows me.
Right. Well, and again, it's not manipulative. It's just demonstrating that you understand their psychology. You know on some level what they're thinking, right? And I think anytime anybody goes into any kind of business transaction, they are assessing, again, back to the definition of trust, they're assessing, do I have confidence in this outcome?
That's right.
In other words, like, what's the risk that this thing won't work?
That's right.
How much time is it going to actually take to work? How much effort is it going to require of me? Right? They may not be consciously thinking that, but subconsciously they're thinking, what's the risk? How much time? What's the effort that's required? Of course, the price point, all of those things. And so those are the things that make them skeptical. Even if they like the features, even if they like the benefits, those are still the things that make them skeptical. And so when you can answer those questions, what you're doing is you're showing from an empathetic way that you can build trust and you can begin to connect with them. So empathy builds trust. And we could stop the episode right here, honestly, because if that's the only thing that you got out of it, that would be a huge win, right? But we're not. We've got more.
Yeah,
right. So another thing that we think builds trust, and this is important, and it goes in something of a chronological fashion. I think it has to start with empathy, but I think the next thing that you can do to build trust in the business context is to use proof, right? Proof builds trust. And when I say proof, I'm talking about, in a lot of ways, like the social proof, right? The testimonials, the reviews, the videos, the Google reviews, like all of that stuff. When you can gather those things, what you do is you begin to pre-sell your next customer, your next client by using those things, because all of that proves that you are more credible, that you're an authority in your field, that you've gotten proven, track record, and all of that. If this business that I'm thinking about buying from has 200 Google reviews, averaging, 4.8, 4.9, that's an indicator that I can probably trust them compared to the business that has 2 reviews, right? And I think we've got to just back up and say this. Selling is simply giving a promise. Proof is helping someone trust that you can deliver on the promise.
That's
right. Selling is the promise. Proof is helping them build trust that you can make good on your promise. And that's why proof in business really is such a powerful thing, because you're trying to create trust. So those Google reviews, those video testimonials, those referrals, those references, all of that, those are things we can use to communicate with a potential customer, a potential client. I'm not just making a promise. I have proof that I can deliver on it.
That's
I have proof that I can back it up. And that's what builds trust, sometimes before you ever even talk to them.
Yep.
Right. And so I know we said empathy comes first. And I think if we're having an interaction, that's absolutely true. Sometimes the proof is what they're going to see even before we have the interaction.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know which comes first, right? The chicken or the egg,
Yeah.
but I think these things go together. Right? The empathy and the proof are super important.
Yeah. So what does that look like in your business? And that's where marketing and sales funnels come in, right? It doesn't have to be complicated. Let me try to demystify it. First of all, pick up a pen and paper and start writing out what we call your customer journey. That means where they first come in contact with you or your business, how they make contact with you, whether you get on a Zoom or a phone call or in person, how they learn about your products and services and ultimately become a paying customer, right? There's a customer journey or a customer journey map that you can write out. Why is this important? Because you need to know all of the steps that matter in their journey, because this is how you're going to start building trust in each one of those steps. So a couple marketing, sales processes that Matt and I both spoke about other episodes would be know, like, trust. That's one framework.
Yep.
And another is 7-11-4. Know, like, trust is really easy. You cannot sell something until trust has been established. And it happens to be that trust is the third step. So they need to get to know you and get to like you before they can finally have trust. They need to know something about you. Think of it like data. They need to know something about you. They need to know of you, but they need to know something about you before they can have enough data to determine if they like you or dislike you, right? And they can't trust you if they don't like you. And by the way, check this out, Matt. It goes in reverse. If you have a bad relationship with a customer, it'll go in reverse. You break their trust. They don't like you anymore. And by the way, they don't want to know you anymore either.
Right. Like they don't know you anyway.
Yeah, they want to fire you, right? That's actually the regular track that human beings follow for relationships. And so I would encourage everybody to go out and check that out. Know, like, trust, write out a customer journey map, and then adopt some kind of a framework so that people can take what we call micro commitments or make micro commitments closer and closer to becoming a customer.
Yeah. A minute ago, you mentioned another framework, 7-11-4.
Right.
Now, a lot of people probably have heard of know, like, trust. Maybe they're not as familiar with 7-11-4. So break that down for us.
Yeah. So I first heard about 7-11-4 in the book Oversubscribe by Daniel Priestley. It's probably my top 3 marketing books.
Wow.
Such a good book. That guy is a modern day wizard, by the way, Daniel Priestley. So 7-11-4 means they have to spend 7 hours with you over 11 different touch points in 4 different locations.
Wow.
And so this can be online or offline.
Okay.
So let me tell you how 7-11-4 can be used in online marketing, right? Imagine for a minute, you have a YouTube channel that has at least 7 hours of watch time, right? So they can go and they can binge all of that entire channel, right?
Sure.
Watch the entire thing. And maybe it's not all at once, right? Maybe it's over a few days or a few months.
Right.
But they watch that 7 hours. Let's say that 7 hours is broken into 11 different touch points. They went online and they've seen your video 11 different times. And in that 11 times, it's 7 hours. Okay. So that accounts for the first 2 numbers. But you want it to be in 4 different locations. So maybe your content is on YouTube, like our podcast, for example.
Right.
But we also have it on Spotify, and we also have it on Apple Podcasts.
Right.
We have it in long form, and we have it in short form.
Yep.
And so we're giving our audience that 7-11-4, a way for them to get to know, like, and trust us.
Right. Yeah, those are great frameworks, I think, for everybody to think through, right? Know, like, trust, and 7-11-4. So we've talked about empathy builds trust, proof builds trust. The third thing that I would say is that results build trust.
Nice.
When you get results for people, they start to trust you. Why? Because you did what you said you were going to do. You delivered on the promise that you made, which was the whole reason that they were looking to do business with you in the first place, is confidence in the outcome. And so the more results you can get for your customers and your clients, and the faster you can get them, the better. That is going to build their trust. And I think a lot of times what we overlook is the fact that just because somebody decided to do business with you doesn't mean that they are fully committed to the business relationship.
Nice. Yeah.
I signed the contract. I even paid my first payment, right? I bought the thing or whatever. But in the back of my mind, I'm still wondering, did I make the right decision?
Yep.
Is this consultant really going to give me the results that I want? Yep. Is this marketing agency really going to be able to move the campaign forward? Is this television that I bought at Costco really going to, perform at all the specs and all the things, right? That's why I have a return policy. It's why I have a cancellation clause. I've got all of these exit strategies when I do business with people. And so the more results that you get somebody and the faster you get them, what you're doing is you're closing down the window when they're still in the making up their mind mode.
Yeah. So sorry to interrupt, but what you're saying is that you can build trust even after you've acquired them as a client. It's not just for acquisition, right?
And I would say not only can you, but you have to.
You have to.
You must. The trust building process is not done when they shake your hand and sign on the dotted line.
Wow, nice.
I think it continues far past that
really
point. And the reality is, if you are a business owner, you have a product or a service to sell, you can intentionally create these steps, these small wins that are going to reinforce that you made a good decision when you decided to do business with me.
That's good.
Right? You can set yourself up for success. You get to set up a game in which it's rigged for you to win. Right?
Yeah.
And again, I don't mean that in a manipulative way. I'm just saying you can set the expectation for your customers and your clients. You can determine what winning actually looks like. You can sort of strategically under promise and over deliver. And again, not in a manipulative sense, but in the sense that you get to set up a game that you can win and you can build results and prove results to your clients and customers.
Yeah, it's good. The first time that I heard about this concept of getting a quick win was from Alex Hormozy. That was the first time I heard about this. And he talks about after they sign and you do a deal with someone, try to get a win as quick as you can.
Yep.
Like, I think he said within 7 days or something like that. Something very short, right? Because it continues to build that momentum of trust.
Right.
So if you guys are watching, listening, and you'd like to learn more about how you can build trust, whether it's in the client acquisition stage or it's fulfillment, Matt and I love this stuff. As you can tell, we're total nerds, total geeks about this. So our
I don't
contact,
know if nerd is the right word.
Matt, I'm a nerd. Matt's not a nerd. So our contact info is in the description below. You can reach out to us for consulting. We'd love to talk to you about this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we've seen the impact of building trust for our own businesses as well as for our clients. And so, like Evan said, if this is something that you need some help with, or you need to bounce something off of, man, reach out to us, and we would love to be a part of that business building, that trust building for you and for your clients and your customers as well. We've talked about how empathy builds trust, how proof builds trust, how results build trust. And as we kind of land the plane on this, I want to just say one other thing, which is that longevity builds trust. Longevity builds trust. What I've learned in business is that people cheer for the startups. We all love to see somebody like get going and get started and whatever. But there's a certain hesitancy, I think, for people to give their money to a startup.
Sure.
They cheer for startups, but they give their money more often to the established brand.
That's right.
Right. The people who have been in business for a long time. Again, whether it's a product or service, whether it's local or whatever.
That's right.
And so if you are newer in your entrepreneurial journey, I don't say that to discourage you. I actually say it to motivate you to stay in the game. There's so many entrepreneurs that get out of the game too early because they haven't seen the results they want. And this would be my call to you to say, stay in the game a little bit longer. Stay in the game another month, another quarter, another year. The reason why is because your longevity actually builds trust. when you stay in business for a long time, even if it's not always as glamorous as you want, even if the revenue is not as big as you want or whatever, every week, every month, every year that goes by where you are consistently showing up, you are building trust in the minds of the marketplace. When somebody sees they've been in business for this many years or whatever, they've amassed this many reviews, all those kind of things, don't underestimate how you can build trust just by showing up consistently. So I'll give you a quick example of this before we close. I drove by a restaurant the other day that it's on my drive every day. I, for whatever reason, haven't noticed it before, right? And I hadn't ever been there, but I saw a sign that alluded to like they had been in business or established in like the 70s.
Wow. Yeah.
And I don't know. I've never been there. I've never tasted the food. But in my mind, if a restaurant has been in business for 50 plus years, they're probably doing something right.
Yeah, sure.
Right. So if I was in the market to try that type of cuisine in that part of town, I'm probably pretty likely to try it. Why? Because the longevity indicates that I can trust them.
Yep.
And so again, if you're watching or listening, I just want to encourage you, get far enough along the line that just your longevity builds trust with your marketplace. Just the fact that you've been around says they can trust you and there's a good reason to do business with you. Thanks for watching or listening to the Shift podcast. We love getting to do this and just getting to share, our insights and our perspective with you. If this has been helpful for you, would you like it? Would you share it? Would you subscribe? And share with somebody who you think could benefit from it, right? Don't keep good content to yourself. Share it with other people, other business owners, other leaders, other entrepreneurs who could benefit from it, because everybody wins when we grow together and we get better in business. Thanks again for being here, and we'll see you next time.